What's up guys, John Gray here, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about budgeting. Now there's many ways to keep organized budget, but I think what people have the most trouble with is just getting started. Something I've been asked a couple times now is, what app do you use to track all of your expenses and your income, and how do you get that to roll up into a nice big summary at the end so that you know what the heck's going on? Now, while it is true that I do use Mint, which is a budgeting app, to sort of sort through some of the miscellaneous things I might spend money on, it's not 100% necessary if you stay organized. In fact, when you're first starting out, it's actually easier to use a Google Sheets or an Excel document to track everything you have coming in and going out. So, to show you how you can get started, here's my September budget in Google Sheets. It should be pretty easy to follow, but if you have any questions or you want to just try to set this up for yourself, feel free to leave a comment and I'd be happy to walk you through it. Now on to the budget. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about budgeting, specifically my budget, using last month as an example to show you sort of how I keep track of things, what's easiest for me, and maybe you will get something useful for your budgeting out of it. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So this is my September budget, so last month. As you can see right away, there's two main things that I'm keeping track of. Obviously, what I'm budgeting in the beginning of the month, which gives me what I expect to have, at the end of the month to sort of put towards my debt, and what actually happens. So, obviously things come up in the middle of the month. I actually might spend less in some cases or more, just because of whatever the circumstances are. So I want to keep track of what actually happens and just make sure that I'm close or on target for what I'm expecting to happen during the month. So those are two big things that I keep track of throughout the month. In order to help me do that, I always have these two columns, little cells on the left, my budgeted amount left, which is what I expect to have, and my cash on hand, which is currently just always tracking every time I update this, what my cash would be considering, I get two paychecks, both of us, and taking out all those expenses, what that cash will look like. So I'll sort of take you through what it was for last month. You might notice that this actually doesn't have any minimum payments involved in it. If you've been watching, you'll know that the only debt that I have is my student loan, and I've actually paid that every couple of weeks, every time I get my paycheck. So usually I don't have a minimum payment there unless there's some accumulated interest. For September, there wasn't any interest due, so I didn't have that to worry about that this time around. But the total was $25.38, and all things included with both of our salaries, that would leave us with $2,400 and $2,410 to pay towards my debt. So as you can see, each week I would just come in and fill out what we actually spent. The way I consider weeks, I always break it out in 4 weeks every single month. And the way I think of week one as the first full week of the month. So, if it's October 1st and that's on a Friday, I won't start week one until, the very next week. And I consider that Friday as part of that week one, just to make it easier on myself to track. And as you can see, most of my expenses actually fall in the beginning of the month, and that's on purpose, just to make it easier to track. A lot of these things, you'll notice, even when you have payments that are consistently happening, like internet, phone, things like that, you can always move those payments around as far as the due date is concerned. So just keep that in mind. If you're trying to figure out like when's the best time to pay things, I would always align it with when you actually get paid. That's just a good way to keep track of it. And then you can see each week sort of what I'm spending. So I have that just totaling at the bottom. Obviously the big expenses come in the beginning of the month. And then throughout the rest of the month, I just have the staggering expenses that haven't happened yet. So mainly that's my internet and phone bill. And then obviously things that fluctuate that you need to spend money on throughout the month. So things like groceries, gas, those are things that you can't just fill up once and be good for the rest of the month if you're going to travel a lot, for example. So in this month, you'll actually see that I came in under budget quite a bit by about 200 and looks like $75, which was great. So we ended up having a little bit more money to actually put towards my student loans, which we absolutely did. The other little anomaly in this for me was that we also had to purchase a car last month. So I have that underneath here, just so you can take a look at it. And this is actually coming out of the savings money, and that's why it's not included in my regular expenses for the month. Because I wanted to keep that separate because it's not necessarily affecting anything that's coming into my budget. So what you'll see here is a couple of categories. The cost of the new car that we actually bought was $65.60. We paid for that with cash. And how this was paid for is listed out here. So the payout that we got for our old car that was totaled was $11,861. Thankfully, we paid down a good amount of that, so our loan balance at the time was only $79.16. So we ended up getting a check for the remaining balance of $39.44. So we used this in addition to the money that we actually had in savings, for those emergencies to pay for the car with cash. So that was an easy thing for us, and it actually eliminated our car payment. So the car payment that you see here for $236 was actually our last car payment ever. So we now have a fully paid for car. So that's pretty exciting. So yeah, that is my budget for September. Obviously, you can sort of take a look at this and let me know if you guys are actually doing anything like this. What are you guys doing to sort of track your money habits? And comment below and let me know. Thanks.